Yes, guys, it's your boy Derz here, back at it again, and this time by myself. So, no, we're not getting a divorce. Everything's okay. Everything's okay at home. But just a little bit of a slow part of the season, I guess you could say. There's not that much transfers really going on, not that much soccer going on or football going on. So, me and Ephraim decided to start doing a little bit more individual kind of videos where we're just talking about things that we're really interested in. Of course, me being a huge Chivas fan, I want to talk about Chivas and talks about their Leagues Cup run that they just had. Quite disappointing, but it is what it is. So obviously we're going to go back to regular content in addition with this, hopefully, if we have time. But yeah, things are just kind of slow, not much to talk about. But yeah, anyways, getting into the Leagues Cup, went to the knockout stages. We got Puebla, funny enough. Puebla going into the playoffs. They're playing Seattle Sounders. LA Galaxy versus Pachuca, one of my favorites, I guess, going into this season. Toluca, of course, reigning champions against Orlando. Kind of out of nowhere, Orlando. Haven't heard much of Orlando recently. LA Galaxy being, previous MLS champions, and Seattle Sounders always been a good team, but Orlando, I've never really heard much about them. And then finally, Miami Tigres, which I think is going to be the most interesting game, given, Messi and co versus a new Tigres with Ángel Correa, who's very inspired. I think these playoffs are going to go off pretty. I don't think there's going to be much really to be I guess argued. I think Puebla's out in my opinion, especially Seattle Sounders. I think they went. I think they won all 3 games. They beat Cruz Azul 7-0, all scored in one half. How that happened? I mean, I was kind of watching the game. I don't know. To be honest, Cruz Azul's always been a good team, in my opinion, at least in recent years. But I think Lacamon is just trying out a whole different system that maybe the players aren't used to, and so they kind of exploited that. Anyways, going forward, LA Galaxy Pachuca. I really rate Pachuca this season. I think they have a lot of good players, a lot of young talent. I don't necessarily see anybody leaving as far as within this tournament. Maybe after the tournament, you'll see some potentially Elias Montiel going out to Europe and such. But they have a young winger. I'm forgetting his name at the moment. I'll be looking it up on the side right now. But they have a really young winger who's been interesting. I've really been liking what I've been seeing from him. He's been getting like goals and assists like almost every game. So definitely somebody to look out for. Pachuca, they're looking really good. Orlando, like I mentioned before, I don't know much about them. I do know about Toluca. I could speak about Toluca. Toluca is a really good team, really strong team, very well managed team by Turco Mohamed. I think they'll end up winning that game. I think Toluca had kind of like a not the best of first games going around, but I think ever since then they kind of picked up the pace. I'll kind of dive deeper into why I think Mexican teams don't do as well in Leagues Cup compared to like the CONCACAF Champions League, because at the end of the day they are still playing the same teams, right? But they're just not getting the same results as far as Leagues Cup versus the CONCACAF Champions League. So anyways, I got Toluca going through. And then Miami Tigres, I think that's an interesting game. It could go either way, depending on, I think, Messi's health. It's going to go either way. If Messi's not there, I think it's a Tigres dub. If Messi is there, I think it'll be a little bit more interesting. But I'm going to back my Mexican boys. I'm going to back Tigres, regardless of who's fit and who's not. I think without Messi is obviously going to make it a little bit easier. But yeah, I definitely got Tigres going through. The youngster I was talking about from Pachuca, his name is Figueroa. He has a weird first name, yeah. Alexei Dominguez Figueroa. He's a crack. He's been getting goals and assists almost every game in the league and in Leagues Cup. He's interesting. He's only 20 years old. I haven't heard much of him before this, so he's kind of barely popping up on my radar. But yeah, I think he's really good. I think he's been doing very, very good things. He has a good long shot. He's techie with the ball. So, I mean, as a Mexican fan, I'd love to see him thrive and potentially, who knows, go to Europe, play for Chivas. That'd be great. Just don't go to America, But anyways, so this Leagues Cup, I think there's a lot of things the U.S. is kind of notorious for always trying to do things their way, mixing it up, making it different as to other things, as to other places. And I think this Leagues Cup kind of really embodies that sort of mentality, the American mentality of doing things their own way. I mean, creating a system where you have 2 groups, one of each nation, and only top 4 go through without really playing each team, right? Because like you play 3 random teams from the opposite league, and then you qualify. I think that's why we saw like a Puebla go through versus teams like America. They're not really facing the same teams, yet they're held to the same standard, I guess you could say. Like, for example, let's say they do this again next season, you could end up playing, Miami, LAFC, and I don't know, another good team could be Seattle Sounders, right? Well, you kind of got the short end of the stick. Meanwhile, another team could have teams that are not so competitive and qualify for the next round of the playoffs. I mean, that's just kind of how it is. It's the luck of the draw. It's a risky tournament. It's kind of built on that high risk, high reward. Like, the top three teams end up get qualification for the CONCACAF Champions League. So that's kind of like a big plus, right? You kind of want to be in that tournament. As we saw, this Club World Cup was a success. And if you could qualify for in order to qualify for the Club World Cup, your first step is to qualify for the CONCACAF Champions League, win that, then get into the World Cup. So it's kind of unfortunate that it is what it is. It's just a situation that these Mexican teams face where, you're kind of, again, given the short end of the stick, having to travel so much. I mean, just looking at Chivas, they had to go from, Guadalajara all the way up to New York, probably an 7 to 8 hour flight. From there, fly all the way down to North Carolina, maybe another 3 hour flight, and then from there go to Cincinnati. Maybe not the longest flight, right? But it's just so much travel. Meanwhile, teams like New York Red Bulls, all these MLS teams, they never traveled a single day. They got to stay at home, probably sleep with their families. And meanwhile, these Mexican teams are on the road constantly. And it's kind of like the price they have to pay in order to have these tournaments and benefit, I guess, financially from being able to play in the U.S. Of course, there's a lot of Mexican League fans in the U.S., which kind of creates that. Maybe that's their argument, where it's like there's probably no MLS fans in Mexico, right? But there's probably more Liga MX fans in the U.S. than there is MLS fans in the U.S. So I think that's kind of like their argument. Let's bring in these fans and give them something that they might not necessarily be able to do. Most people in the U.S. that are Mexican are probably here illegally, and so because of that, they probably can't go and visit Mexico and watch their favorite teams. So this is an opportunity for people who can't leave the country, and maybe they're big Pachuca fans. They get to go see Pachuca. That's probably their argument, but I think at the end of the day, it's a financial reason more than anything. But anyways, I'm here to talk about Chivas. I just wanted to give you a brief opinion on how I saw the Leagues Cup. And I kind of want to talk about Chivas, how they've been doing, how they've been developing, how their Leagues Cup was. I think the Leagues Cup was not the best. I think it boiled down to just 2 minutes. Realistically, 2 minutes would have put Chivas into the knockouts in a good position. We saw that in the first game. Chivas dominated the first half, let their chances go. You could say it's maybe due to travel, tired legs. Maybe they weren't mentally prepared. They went into that game kind of lackluster, not really taking shots, not taking opportunities, just kind of hoping to pass it into the goal. And they definitely dominated the game, but they ended up losing in the last second of the game because of a free kick. And that boils down to just bad time management. I mean, we'll go into also the game against Charlotte. Again, you're winning the game pretty comfortably. You're dominating the game. You're doing all the right things. Last minute, free kick, you tie it. We win the game against Cincinnati with a kind of rotated squad, which I was expecting, given that there was no more hope to qualify for the next round. But what we could have seen was a Chivas that's into the next round by simply just managing those last minutes a little bit better. I mean, winning the game against Charlotte and tying the game against Red Bulls, regardless of what would have happened in the penalty shootout, would have meant that Chivas would be qualified to the next round. And I think that they had the prerequisites, if you could call it that. They had what it took to be in the next round, but they didn't qualify, which again boils down to time management. We saw it again against Atletico San Luis, where you're winning 2-0 at halftime. You're going into that half probably feeling good. You immediately get scored on. You probably think everything's fine. Again, you get scored on because of a stupid penalty, and maybe now you're like, oh, what's going on now? The other team has the momentum. They score on you again. Luckily, Chivas was able to end up winning that game, luckily enough. But I think you can't let these games get to that point where you think, yeah, well, it's okay, we'll handle it later. This Leagues Cup kind of taught us that it's not going to be like that. The second you let off the gas, the other team will punish you, and there's not going to be the opportunity to score 2 goals at the end of the game to win it. So that's unfortunate. Not much to say about that. I like the fact that Milito decided to rotate at the end of the game. I mean, it boiled down to mostly just not having the opportunity to go to the next round, so might as well rotate given that they have a game on Sunday, right? You have a game, 2-3 days later. You have to travel all the way from Ohio to Torreon. I don't know if they're gonna stay in Torreon or if they're gonna go to Guadalajara. That's a lot of traveling, but I'm sure these players want to go and see their family. So we'll see what happens there. If you're interested, you could look at their website. They usually give you like all the details on where they're going, where they're training, what cities they're staying at. But yeah, I think it is what it is. I mean, I like what I see from them. Again, going back to like that rotation that I saw recently, I think all the players are good. Chivas have at least two candidates in each position, which creates a lot of competition. And if you're not at your best, you're not going to play, which is super beneficial to a team who wants to strive to do more. Because the second somebody's injured, the second somebody's not doing the best, boom, let's put on the bench player, the second string player, and they're hungry because they haven't been playing for a while. So they're gonna want to give the coach a reason to keep on starting them, right? But yeah, I think we saw some interesting things. There's some players that are just not, I guess, playing at the level that you would expect them. It is early on the season. There has been a lot of games. It's a new coach. You could make all these arguments, right? That the system maybe is not working for everybody. The system isn't so favoring of traditional wingers, you could say. And we have a lot of those. We have Kate Cowell, we have Yal Padilla, Hugo Camberos, these players that are, I mean, Yal Padilla likes to come into the middle. Alvarado likes to come in the middle. They're wingers, but I think Hugo Camberos and Kate Cowell like to touch the side, like to be down that line and exploit that. Under this new system, they're more like inverted wingers where they have to stay more centrally. I think they're grasping the concept pretty well, and they're doing a pretty good job. I think Milito has really been able to pass on his instructions very well. But again, there's players like Alvarado who haven't done really much of anything this tournament. He always typically starts slow, so that's why I'm not like worried about it. But it is something that me personally, I would bench him by now, maybe to spark something in him. He just came back from the Gold Cup. He hasn't had much vacation, if any. I would bench him against Santos again. Maybe. I mean, he was benched this last game. He's definitely going to be recovered for the Santos game. He should be ready. But when you have players like Jael Padilla, Hugo Camberos, Efrain Alvarez, Cade Cowell, I just named 4 other wingers that could play that position, and somebody's not really playing to the level that you think that they should, I think you got to bench him. Not in a sense of, I'm tired of this guy, I want him out, but just in the sense of, let's just try something new. Let's just freshen these ideas and kind of create a better competition and that understanding that you're not going to start every game. Another player that hasn't been playing very well, I think, it's hard to say that he hasn't been playing well. I think in the Leagues Cup, he didn't have the best Leagues Cup. Luis Romo, he played every game. Chivas dominated every game. He played in the midfield instead of a center back position these games. He didn't really, I guess, wow me this tournament. He's one of the more important players that we have on the squad, one of the most valuable players in the squad. And, he got dropped from the selección. You would have expected him to kind of bounce back and really take this a little bit more personally. But he missed a penalty against Charlotte, which it is what it is. He's not in the squad to score penalties, but you'd expect somebody with so much, I guess, experience to finish those chances, right? Again, against this last game against Cincinnati, Armando Gonzalez, La Hormiga, set him up pretty well, in my opinion, and he, again, took it a little bit too casually, and he missed. So stuff like that is kind of frustrating. You would expect a little bit more from him. I think our center mids are somewhere where we need a bolster. We do have options, right? Richard Ledesma, he could play center mid also, even though they more traditionally play him out wide on that right wing back. Marco Beaz nursing an injury right now. Eddie Gutierrez is another player that I think that hasn't really been up to it. He had a good preseason, scored a lot of goals, but he's caused 2 penalties. The first one, a lot of people say that it wasn't a penalty. The second one was an obvious penalty and for no reason, in my opinion. I think that player was going to get to that ball, but why risk it? Why? I don't know. My idea is more never cause a penalty under any circumstances, even if the player's one-on-one. I don't know. That's just the way I see it. But Gutierrez has been playing a lot of missed passes, and I just expect a little bit more from someone like him, given his I guess his trajectory in his career. But other than that, I think a lot of players have been doing well. Sala Rangel has been getting a lot of hate. I don't personally see any of the goals being like a direct mishap from him. I would have liked to see Oscar Wale play this Leagues Cup at least one game. Definitely against the Cincinnati game. He did make mistakes. I mean, in preseason, he made a mistake against Necaxa that caused a goal. So maybe that's why Milito's not really trusting him anymore. But overall, I think I like the squad. I genuinely like the squad. And I know I just listed off a bunch of complaints about them, but I think that this squad has a lot to offer. Just competitive wise, competition wise, there's a lot of options. As far as the striking options right now, I'm kind of stuck in between Pulido and then the possibility of La Hormiga, who's been doing well, scored 3 goals so far this season. Teun Wilke, I really rate him. He's always been that player where it's like maybe we should play him a little bit more. I don't feel like we've given him his opportunities. This game against Cincinnati, he did a very, very bad job. He came on, just caused fouls, never won a ball in the air, which is his forte, right? Like, you're 6'4", you gotta win that. That's why you're on. He didn't win almost any of his aerial duels. So I just expect a little bit more from him, to be honest. But he's young. He hasn't been given the most amount of opportunities. I'm sure he'll get there. But yeah, I'm kind of stuck between those two players, at least La Hormiga and Pulido. Because Pulido, he does well when he's on, but you never see him really take shots. I haven't seen him take a shot this whole season, right? And I mean, La Hormiga has 3 goals. It's one of those things where maybe La Hormiga is just better off coming off the bench. Who knows? I think La Hormiga has that quality that Milito's looking for in a striker, somebody who's going to press. Chivas is a high pressing team. As soon as they lose the ball, they win it very quickly. And having a striker who's willing to sacrifice himself and constantly just kind of bother those center backs, not let them play out comfortably, is going to be beneficial when you want to recover the ball as quickly as possible. Cause the center back to make mistakes, play a ball into the midfield that they're kind of rushed into making, and then you have all those players to kind of smother the midfield and win the ball back quickly. Overall, my feelings about Chivas this season are definitely positive. And I think that we're going to have a good season. I like the tactics that Milito plays, always on the front foot, always making the initiative to be the scoring team, to be the winning team. But like I said in the beginning or earlier, they need to manage their time better. It's not just enough to be winning. Minute 85, the game ends at minute 90. Keep that same concentration all the way throughout. Don't make these little mistakes that costed you the playoffs, which ultimately costed you your ticket to the Club World Cup. Is it over? No. Chivas could still qualify for the Champions League by probably making it into the. I think they're gonna have to make it all the way to the final this season, and then they'll be able to qualify. It's unfortunate. It is what it is. But overall, I think that Chivas is showing a lot of good signs, and if we can maintain this squad and maintain players and continue to get new players like Richie Ledesma, like Efrain Alvarez, like Campillo, like Cotorro, all these players, you could tell when they're on the pitch, they feel the passion. And that could be a Chivas thing, but I also feel like it's a Milito thing. I think Milito's really adding this sense of pride and passion into the players where they want to go to war for this guy. And I haven't seen that since Pauno, to be honest. I think under Gago, he's very smart, but I think he's very arrogant. He was a very arrogant coach where the players were like, he's smart, but I don't think they have the best relationship. With Pauno, the players had a genuine relationship. You could see it. They were when they would score, they would celebrate with him. It's kind of like what Matias Almeida had, and I see that again with Milito. I mean, we all saw it. I think if you watched the Atletico San Luis game when they scored that final goal to win the game in the last minute, the whole bench just kind of jumped up and they all rushed in and they all celebrated with Milito. So I think things are good at Chivas. I think the union is good. There's been a lot of rumors about Camberos and all this stuff. I think that honestly, as a Chivas fan, your best interest is to just ignore everything, watch the games, develop an opinion for yourself, and the rest of it is just media trying to sell you. They're just trying to sell you these stupid ideas so that you click on their videos, you click on their articles and stuff. But overall, if you're a Chivas fan, I would be very, very, very excited for the next season. Yeah, I think that's it for this video, guys. I'm sure that we're going to be making a podcast soon, just wrapping up some more transfers and going on from there. But as always, I appreciate you guys so much for watching, for commenting, for liking, for sharing, all that stuff. And we'll catch you in the next one.